let's get going. So we're going to move into the presentations, and then we will have the question and answer segments right after that. Before we move into that, though, we could not be here without our sponsors. And so let me take this opportunity to once again thank our sponsors, Isratech, Hardware and Lumber, JN Bank, Exim Bank, Newport Furzon, FAO, JMEA, Walkerswood, DBJ, and the Jamaica Stock Exchange. We thank you so much. And so our first presenter of the morning is going to be Miss Diane Edwards, President of the Jamaica Promotions Corporation, JAMPRO. When the presentations are done, we're going to ask that you take a seat on the podium. And then when everyone is through, then we will conduct our question and answers at that time. So, Ms. Edwards, welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Mr. Ian Murray, Chairman of the AIC, the Agro-Invest Corporation, Dr. Al Powell, CEO of Agro-Invest, Mr. Ovid Palmer, CTD, ambassadors, colleagues, farmers, speakers, online guests. The list is too long, and following my minister's dictates, all protocols observed. It's a real pleasure to be with you here this morning to really discuss something that is passionate to my heart, and my team has always heard me talk about agriculture and agribusiness. And I love the minister's analogy of that image of the farmer with the straw hat, because I always say, not a man with a hoe, but a woman with a computer. That's what agribusiness has to be about today. So I want to thank Agro-Invest Corporation for staging this event, which I think is really critical, but also for giving me the challenge, one of speaking after the minister. I think it's a very daring person to do that, but also to give me 10 minutes for a subject that I could speak on all day. Having spent over 20 years in the diaspora, I know firsthand the opportunity for Jamaican food products and Jamaican cuisine, because it's not just about marketing these disparate products. It's about building them into a cuisine and following the lead of Indian, Thai, French, Italian, etc., who have all able to position their cuisines as world cuisines. So I'm going to skate through some slides really quickly, so do forgive me, but I'm going to try to keep to time. So just to look very quickly at some of our leading processed food products, food and beverage exports, you see going from the bottom there that really were dominated by rum. It's really about rum, sauces, beer, and ackee. And ackee, I have to stress, these are products that are in high demand in the international market. Coffee products, you notice there, is underperforming at only about 16 million. If you go further up the list, you will see rock lobster and other sea crawfish. You'll see unsweetened biscuits. You'll see pastries, soft drinks, frozen poultry. So these are all products that we are now exporting, but all products where there is a lot more opportunity than what we are actually seeing now. So I'm going to look really quickly at the global food market trends, because post-COVID, this is where the real opportunity lies. Healthy foods. Everyone wants to improve their health now. Everybody is looking at how can I eat more healthily. Natural foods, free from. Free from is actually a whole concept in Tesco and in all the major supermarkets of the world. Free from gluten, free from colorants, free from preservatives. Everything is going back to natural. Plant-based foods and veganism is on the rise. You see there legumes, mushrooms, algae, fungi. These are all things that we can produce. We have a mushroom cooperative in Mandeville. I don't know how many people know that, but they are producing really high quality oyster mushrooms. We could be growing mushrooms in major quantities across the country. And it is a high-value niche market product which can go into hotels and go into households. Flexitarianism, long word, but this is the whole thing about meat, cutting back on meat and becoming more moderate in consumption of meat. Pre-packed foods, Jamaican ready meals, people in the diaspora and people in mainstream consumers want to eat ethnic, exotic foods, but they don't know how to cook them. There's a whole opportunity for home-cooked meals. And if you look at ethnic food trends, in Europe, the Caribbean food market is now worth almost 100 million. How much of that are we actually supporting? A lot of Caribbean so-called products and Jamaican so-called are made in the metropolitan markets and call themselves Jamaican style. It upsets the diaspora terribly, but that's the brand Jamaica that Minister was talking about that we are not using. We have created this immense demand and this immense attractiveness, but where are the products? We're not producing enough. And you see there, sauces and condiments, plain and dark chocolate. Chocolate is a huge, dark chocolate is one of the superfoods. Tea, and we have producers of teas. We have a lot more opportunity in exotic teas. Gluten-free, lots of celiacs in the world, people who have to watch their diets. So gluten-free is not only a choice, but for some people an imperative. Cakes and pastries and baked goods, real opportunities there. Again, ethnic food markets in the USA on the other side of the pond. Retail sales of ethnic food, 11 billion US dollars in 2013. I don't have the figures for right now. But if you look at the segments, Mexican Hispanic is dominant, Asian is growing very fast, and so is Indian. Caribbean is in the other foods category. We need to come out of that category and really establish ourselves as a real alternative exotic cuisine. And if you look at sauces and seasonings, this has the most new releases in Mexican and Hispanic foods. So again, sauces, we know we have a plethora of sauces. And we have to play to the food trends in the market, organic, sustainable superfoods. Look how many of those superfoods we produce in Jamaica. It's extraordinary, but we're not really marketing them as superfoods under the brand Jamaica label and leveraging tourism. No tourist should ever leave Jamaica without a couple of Jamaican gift products in their suitcase. If they don't do that, as I used to say when I was managing the UK office for Ray and Nephew, then we have failed. If every tourist doesn't leave here with 3 or 4 Jamaican products, we have failed. Fresh and exotic fruits. Well, I don't need to go into that. Minister spoke a lot about mangoes and some of the products in high demand. You can see here a lot of products, superfoods, but globally recognized products. Yam and sweet potato are much better for you than Irish potato. What are we doing about positioning our products? Mangoes we are known for our unique flavor. Can argue which mango is the most flavorful, but right now it's Julie and East Indian. But we have to work the logistics because we have real problems with getting product to market, and we have real problems with, sorry, I wanted to say one other thing. We have real problems getting the product to market, so we have to work on the airlift, and we also have to work on the hot water treatment, and we actually have a project that is going to develop a hot water treatment plant. So the logistics, I think, is also critical. And one thing I wanted to say about Aki, which is not actually well, it is on the right-hand side. The right-hand side. Aki, we got just yesterday another inquiry in JAMPRO for 2 tons per month of Aki. What are we doing about the Aki orchards? Okay, we know we're starting, but there's a lot more we need to do on the orchard crop side. So I wanted to just relate really quickly one of the projects that JAMPRO did, which was to get Euromonitor to do a market assessment of a number of products. And these were 3 key product categories. And really, they immediately said to us, this was in 2019, we have 61 million in untapped export potential for 3 categories of products that we have left on the table: fresh fruits, baked goods, and seafood. So 61 million, which we could make tomorrow if we were exporting the right products. I just wanted to say real quickly about non-food agricultural products, because we have also done a lot of research on this. Jamaican black castor oil, the market in the US alone for castor oil, 74 million, 174 million, sorry. Market for Jamaican black castor oil, 28 million. The market that Jamaica is supplying in castor oil, 4 million. Who is supplying the rest of the 24 million of the Jamaican black castor oil market? India. Okay, I rest my case. Export Max. I wanted to say a word about Export Max because Export Max is really one of the signal programs that JAMPRO has for MSMEs. And we are really doing some fantastic things in this area. And I'm really just focused here on the agro part of Export Max, because Export Max is for 48 companies in this round of Export Max. Really, the goal of the program is to improve the competitiveness, drive an increase in export earnings, and increase the diversity of the export product. So some of the successes we have had, Lingaya, I really want to stress this one because this is an innovative product. It's flame roasted breadfruit, vacuum packed. And this is exactly the type of innovation we need to continue to service our diaspora market. Young diasporans, I keep on telling people, are never going to peel a yam or peel a breadfruit. When you've had your manicure, ladies, no one is going to go deal with that. So we have to really start to repackage our products in a way that is much more attractive. So frozen, flash frozen, vacuum packed, convenience has to be the name of the game. And this product now is in Florida. They are now exporting a number of containers per month to Florida, and we're opening other markets for them in Atlanta, New York, and Toronto. Jajaire herbal products, a set of herbal products, which is, they have 36 products in their range right now. And this is a really, again, exciting because they're repackaging some of Jamaican traditional products, medicinal products, have a real opportunity in a market that is looking for health and looking for supplements that can keep you healthy and build your immune system, most importantly. Chavot, I don't think I need to talk too much about their teas, and King's Jamaican, which is, again, a range of spices. So what have we done with all these young companies? Taking them into the export market, taking them into e-commerce, finding ways to enable them, and using trade agreements. I've just listed them there because we have preferential access to a number of markets which we're not really using. And these trade agreements, some of them have a lifespan and will expire. So my final slide really is about exporting tips and really how JAMPRO can accompany you on your export journey. I think these are some critical questions that companies need to ask themselves. You need to research the market because we know about failing to plan is planning to fail. We know that. So you have to research the market and understand the consumer trends and the distribution channels. Diagnostic of the product, is the product right for the market? And I've seen focus groups and market research, consumer market research, which has completely reformulated a product because our palate in Jamaica is not the same as the mainstream palate in foreign. So we have to change. We have to look at the trade agreements. How can we improve our access and improve our competitiveness in the markets that we are targeting through market access agreements? Standards, critical. Bureau of Standards, do you have the right standards required by the market? Global Gap, GMP, HACCP, whatever. You have to have the right standards. And then the question of logistics, as I was saying yesterday, I had an exporter crying on my shoulder about how to get the product to market, just as Minister was relating. I actually sent you a WhatsApp about that, Minister. The distribution channel. What distribution channel should you use? It's not always a retailer. Sometimes it's an importer, sometimes it's a distributor, sometimes it's independent retail. I mean, I actually had to sell into the supermarket in the UK. I know exactly how hard that is. Sometimes you go directly to the consumer through e-commerce, that's a better way. And then marketing, I have to stress, for small companies, do you actually have the funds to build a brand, or are you actually better off doing contract manufacturing and not trying to do marketing? Because all these big supermarkets and retailers will say to you, we have to develop a joint business plan. That joint business plan really means, how much are you spending in my supermarket to make your product rotate? So we have to know the realities of the retail environment that we're entering. So as Minister said, and I like to echo my minister, the time is now. Grow in Jamaica. We think the possibilities are endless, and JAMPRO really is here to help you to work on developing your exports, targeting the right markets, and preparing properly for export. AIC is a huge partner of ours, and we are really excited about the potential to market more packaged products to the market. What the international market is looking for is projects that are packaged that can show a return on investment. I was just saying a while ago to someone that we had a program where we invited some of the big investors, both private equity and banks, to a webinar. And we wanted to expose to them that it's not just agriculture, it's agribusiness, because the banks have not been supportive. And I'm sorry, I'm talking to you guys in the room. I know some of you are here. But what I loved about that encounter, and we did it offline, so no media, because we wanted frank conversation, we exposed those financial institutions to 4 major agribusiness projects, high-tech projects. And at the end of it, I got called, let us finance these projects. So the banks are changing their minds, they're changing their attitude, and this is my plug for you. So you need to accompany us on the whole journey of improving and increasing production, and the right production for the right market. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Edwards of JAMPRO. Our next presenter is going to be Mr. Sean Garbutt, Managing Director, Associate Manufacturers Limited, Walkerswood, and he'll be looking at the opportunities in agro-processing.
Good morning, everyone. Forgive my lack of government protocols, but I would like to say a special welcome to Minister, Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., our hosts at the Agro-Invest Corporation, distinguished panelists, and our ladies and gentlemen, and especially a big up to all our farmers. And I've had the opportunity to come and speak with you today about some of the opportunities that we see in agriculture, in agro-processing, particularly in Jamaica. And I'll speak particularly about opportunities around our business, what we see, because we have a 70,000 square foot facility in Walkerswood, St. Anne, and it sits open every day waiting fresh produce from our farmers across Jamaica. And with that, we of course believe very much in our Jamaican produce, the authenticity and the advantages that it provides us, but also, you know, the real interest of converting from fresh to semi-processed to final value added, keeping as much of that value here within Jamaica, within our entrepreneurs, with our farmers. And I agree with the Minister and Ms. Edwards about changing the image of who our farmers are. And we're blessed to work with a number of fine Jamaican men and women. And, you know, I like to use one in particular as a fine example of what farming truly can be in Jamaica. This gentleman is based in St. Elizabeth. If you see him out in the farm, you would possibly take him simple, but he delivers 10 to 12,000 pounds of scallion to us each week. with a value upwards of 500,000 Jamaican dollars each week. So one year we decided we were going to have a little thank you party, invite a number of our farmers. And I was very pleased to see them gentleman looking very dapper. He arrived in his, I guess his town car, not his delivery car. And, you know, just shows you that there is value in farming and we need to promote it more, Minister. The one thing that scares me a little bit, as I said, we rely heavily on produce coming into us. We're not farmers. We respect our farmers. I don't see that many farmers younger than me. And you know, it's the continuity of who is going to be coming up behind us to carry the charge. And Minister, I would say you're in an excellent position, and an excellent time in Jamaica's history and where we are to really kind of put it forward and move away from our old school ways, our old school products, and you know, the move from sugar into more viable aspects and elements, but keeping, of course, at hand the legacy products that Jamaica has. For whatever reason, I tell people as well, it's our soil, it's the salt air, it's everything, plus the hands of our farmers that make our coffee the world best, our ginger, our pimento, our Scotch bonnet peppers, all these items people have tried to grow elsewhere. And for whatever reason, it just does not come back with the same kind of vibes our Jamaican grown products have. So we're kind of stubborn in our ways. We only work with products and end goals that come from Jamaican produce. We've had the opportunity to put our brand name behind coconut water, bully beef, other things, but we don't grow those here in Jamaica. So we've stuck to what we know and we grow. Our Jamaican jerk seasoning, our Scotch bonnet sauces, and a myriad of Jamaican condiments utilizing our fresh fruits, spices, and herbs. So I'm not sure if we're set up here, but just had a few brief pictures, just showing, outlining who we are for who may not know Walkerswood. We are the leading exporter of Jamaican jerk seasoning, hot sauces, and condiments. And each year, we really, I mean, we've grown substantially since our company became involved in 2009. And, you know, we have built a solid foundation. We saw where those before us kind of erred. They built a super brand and a demand for product, but then were unable to supply and pay their farmers and pay their packaging suppliers. So we saw it was an easy fix, give the people what they want, but also, to a degree, keep away from the entrapments of wanting to jump at every new market, every new opportunity, until we knew we could properly satiate and supply our existing markets, our existing partners. So with some amount of pride, I would tell you that we have actually had to decline new markets for the last several years, whilst I must say achieving substantial growth. So we took over in 2009. We have grown the business fivefold, and that is by maintaining our presence in the market, by showing the major international chains such as Walmart, Publix, Kroger's, Tesco in the UK, that we are not just, you know, still have a very backward image of Jamaica and what Jamaican farming and processors look like. We are not that. We have shown that Walkerswood as our brand has been able to supply consistently and steadily high quality products. And because of that, we have been given these opportunities where we are now represented in, thank you, in over 2,000 Walmart stores across the US. It came about, again, from just seeing us on the shelf, see how we market and present ourselves, but also by our ability to respond to the opportunity. Walmart was like the proverbial dog barking at the car. We wanted the car. We barked and it stopped. And they said, well, all right, this is now November. We need 4 containers in our warehouse in Chicago for January. Not an easy task, but having barked at the car and made the car stop, we had no choice but to jump in. And by doing that, you know, it gave us a huge opportunity for growth. Just one placement added 10% of sales growth in year 1. And, you know, with that, how the major chains operate, as Ms. Edwards know, you have some that you get access to because of the demographic around them. So there's a Jamaican or a Caribbean community, they'll have a world brands or even possibly a Caribbean aisle or set where your products are placed. What this Walmart placement was 1,000 stores across the US. A lot of them would be what we would call mainstream consumer base. These are your average North American consumers that hopefully they've heard of Jamaica, possibly been and visited with us because of the great efforts of our tourist board, and hopefully willing to try new cuisines. And with that, the growth of spicy foods and people eating, different cuisines and cultures, we have grown. And during the pandemic period, we're happy to announce that they decided, because of our performance and the offtake off their shelf, that they increased us to 2,160 stores now across the US, and more opportunities in the building. Publix likewise. We were in a few hundred Publix because of demographic. We're in now all 1,700 Publix and placed very prestigiously in their, what they'd call their mainstream consumer aisle. That's their catch-up aisle, right? So we reach. And, again, we take great pride in that we likewise feel we have a role to play in brand Jamaica. That is all what we are promoting by our foods, our cuisine, our music, our culture. And I'm glad to say that our cuisine is now finally catching up to the accolades and acceptance of our music industry, our athletes and all of that. And now the food is coming to play its part in that industry. And that's why I said we see we're poised for great potential for these next coming years. But there will be challenges, as with everything. And again, our biggest concern is, will we have enough produce to go forward? That's been our biggest limiting factor each year. We have built out our capacities from the front side of the business, now going back to where we have automated labeling, sleeving, capping, and filling machinery. We're now building it back to the point of our receival of fresh produce, washing, crushing, grinding, so that we're able to take in more produce. So here we are, some of our export containers loading. We, our Walmart position. But the last one I'll share with you, basically, we, as part of the brand Jamaica, we, we're on the shelves overseas and seen visible, but also, participating in a number of events, introducing us to a wider cross-section of potential consumers. We were actually very lucky to participate in the 2019 South Beach Food and Wine Festival, where the Jamaica Tourist Board provided an excellent opportunity to Jamaican brands such as ourselves, Ray and Nephew, and Red Stripe, of course, to showcase Jamaican cuisine, but in an elevated cuisine. Our cuisine was mostly known for fill belly. A nice big plate of ackee and saltfish, 3 or 4 dumplings, the way I like it, some green banana. But through the hotel industry and having use of international chefs, what they've done is help us showcase our cuisine in a more international flair. So now you get these fancy little ringlets, same ackee and saltfish in there, same green banana, but presented in a way that is familial to a global consumer. And our brand ambassador, a Jamaican-born chef, Wentworth Simpson, living his dream and now operating his own restaurant in Brooklyn, New York. And this is what we offered them at South Beach: a deboned oxtail with a little hint of jerk and our one-stop sauce. And as I said, we proudly carry the flag of brand Jamaica and our cuisine especially. So here's Chef rocking the table. But where we want to speak to you now about the opportunities is that, with the growing awareness of brand Jamaica, but also the cuisine carrying along, opportunities abound from fresh produce level, as the minister has said, from mangoes leaving Jamaica, our yam, our ackee, but also semi-processed. Some of these people that are making the Jamaican style products, Buy your scallion mash here, your pepper mash here. At least make it more authentic if you wish to style or parody on our brand and what we do. And so here I want to share with you basically what we've achieved and what it means to us since 2013 to 2016. We doubled our business. And to achieve that, we actually did hit that record and exported 240 20-foot container equivalents. But to do that, we bought 2.7 million pounds of fresh Jamaican produce. And that is just core to yellow Scotch bonnet, West Indian red pepper, scallion, and pimento. We're now building huge demands for our locally produced yellow onions. We created a mild jerk seasoning because I would get a lot of emails from the consumers saying, man, I love it, but my wife can't manage it, or how can I tone it down? And I said, well, why am I going to tell you how to tone down my product? This is an ideal product. I'm going to give you what you want. So we made a jerk seasoning that had 50% less pepper, but we loaded it up with all that jerk flavor. Because right now in the States, we're almost 50-50 for our sales of hot jerk to our mild jerk seasoning. And what that is done is showing the consumer base that is interested in trying our Jamaican foods, but they're a little wary. They've heard about our Scotch bonnets, and we like things hot here in Jamaica. So it was an excellent introduction to them. I'm further happy to report that since 2016 to 2021, we again doubled our business. That means we exported in excess of 450 20-foot container equivalents. 90% of what we produce in Walkerswood, St. Anne, leaves Jamaica for our traditional markets. To achieve that, we bought 5 million pounds of our core Jamaican produce. Right? And I am very happy to announce to you and the partners here at Agro-Investment and JAMPRO and everyone, it is our plan to further double our sales again in the next 5 years, taking us to close to 1,000 containers exported and over 10 million pounds of Jamaican produce with a purchase value of above 1 billion Jamaican dollars annually by that time, Minister. And what we do look for is strengthening our partnerships and networks with the farmers across Jamaica. We have actually engaged with the members from the Agro-Investment Corporation and some of their agro parks to provide us great produce, because we are not farmers, right? And we believe that we are better serving by playing to our strengths, which is taking Jamaican produce and converting it to a value-added finished product. And with that, as I said, I see a lot of great potential going forward for Jamaica. Our opportunity is now. The saying is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So I'm very encouraged by what I've heard and I've seen, and we look forward as Team Walkerswood to working with our partners in the Agri-Ministry, JAMPRO, Agro-Investment Corporation, and our farmers across Jamaica, that let us truly build Jamaica that we are proud to live in. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garbutt. As a Jamaican, everything tastes better with a little bit of Walkerswood, whether it's the seasoning or the sauce. Even if you can't cook, you can put some Walkerswood and it tastes better. All right, so let's move on to our next presenter, Mrs. Sanniel Wilson-Graham, Chief Plant Quarantine Officer, Plant Quarantine at the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and her presentation will be on the criteria for successful export of food products.
Good morning. Thank you, moderator. I too would want to honor our Honorable Minister Charles Jr., certainly our Minister of State in his absence, Your Excellency, Ambassador from Brazil. Thank you. My Chief Technical Director that gave me the eye just now. Chairman for AIC, certainly my friend and colleague, Dr. Powell, ladies and gentlemen, the media, good morning. Unlike the previous speakers, I have less time and therefore I need to get going. But I really believe a forum like this, particularly when you invite the regulatory aspect, is really closing the circle. I say that because quite often we have agricultural expo. There's an aspect of regulation that quite often when persons have done it all and it reached to the regulatory aspect, they said, I needed to know this before. And so I want to congratulate certainly AIC, Dr. Powell, and your evening calls to ensure that I am actually on this forum to speak to a side of the export that you need to know and know upfront. Minister, in the words of the young people, they understood the assignment. And so this morning, I'm going to look at the criteria for successful export of food products, and I'm going to focus a little bit. I haven't heard my colleague, Ms. Edwards from JAMPRO. I'm going to focus a little bit on primary production because there's still a market. I heard the fellow presenter, Mr. Garbutt, and he spoke about the restaurants and the use of Walkerswood, and I agree with you, moderator. If you can't cook, once you use Walkerswood, they can't tell. And so I am now going to look at the other things that you need in the pot that should actually come from Jamaica and what you really need. And I'm going to do it in a very simple way so that our exporters, our farmers understand it's really very simple, and the ministry is here to really guide you, literally hold your hand in ensuring that you are able to successfully export. Next slide for me, thank you. So the 4 steps, I am supposed to be changing it. Sorry about that. Thank you. So we're going to look at 4. Okay, I get it. Sorry about that. So we're going to look at the 4 simple steps to successful export, particularly of the primary agricultural produce, market access. And I know my colleague, Ms. Edwards, spoke about market access, and I want to actually speak to you this morning about market access from a regulatory standpoint. Quite a little bit different from getting into your Tesco and your Walmart. It's really literally first getting your visa. So you must have the passport, which is the actual production and the thing that you need to export. But really and truly, if it is that you cannot get access into the UK or the US market, then you really cannot get into the supermarket that the previous presenter speaks about. And so I want to ensure that you understand what you need to do from that angle. We're going to speak a little bit about what you need to do here in Jamaica. And so I am going to expound a little bit more on packing facilities and field certification. Again, synchronizing and having that nexus between us and JAMPRO, and certainly the presenter from Walkerswood. You do have some standards that you have to meet. And a part of those standards is ensuring that you have certification of your packing facilities and your fields. We're going to now look at as well the produce certification, and that's once you're now ready to export, the day that you're required, or at least weeks or days coming up to export, you need the produce to be certified to ensure that when they reach the importing country, that they would be allowed access. And lastly, we're going to just a little bit on the logistical arrangements that you need to also put in place. So these steps will not be chronological, they may actually be concurrent, but you will have an appreciation as to exactly what you need to get done. All right, so the hand is a little too heavy. What do we mean by market access from the regulatory standpoint? What we really mean is that you must first have country access. So Walmart can want your product, Tesco can want your product, but USA does not accept that particular primary product from Jamaica. And usually what needs to be is that you make contact with the ministry. If it's a product that we have just exported to that country, they don't take it from Jamaica. We're going to assist you, in preparing your technical market access proposal. We do that for you. You don't need to do much except to ensure that we have the information we need. I must also make mention, though, that we have several bilateral agreements from the regulatory standpoint that already exist, which means we are ready markets for you based on these agreements. So quite often, you don't really need to do much, just have your facilities ready as well as the produce. There's another aspect to it. You may also need import permits. And so with the divorce of UK from EU, we are seeing where the UK, for example, are one of our major markets for agricultural produce, having some new regulation in regards to export of agricultural produce. That's another thing that you need to check, and we are also here to assist you with our team at the ministry. Plant quarantine and produce inspection branch is very knowledgeable of what exists, and we need to do that certification. So you need to ensure that that information is you're aware as to what obtains there. We have been speaking about mango. Mango is certainly a very special one. We continue to work with mango in the ministry. And one of the things about mango, even from you're actually planting the mango, your farmers need to be trained. They need to sign an operational plan, a work plan. That's just a part of the agreement we have with the United States. And so that's why I say to you that in terms of market access, there are some things that we need to do on the Jamaica end, and the ministry is more than happy to assist you with that. Moving quickly to our facilities and field certification. I can, for example, tell you about the Cayman market. If it is that you don't have a certified facility by the Ministry of Agriculture, you can't export to the Cayman market, although we do have an exporting protocol with the Cayman market. So ensure that you have facilities. And I know some of my exporters will say, but that's a huge investment and I'm just trying out the market. We also have something for you. We do allow persons to do what we call subcontracting, which is to use somebody else's facility while you get yourself, better prepared to have your own packing facility. The ministry facilitates that, and we do the certification to ensure that you do have that in place. There's some requirements that actually require that the seed that you start out with, the nursery, is actually certified. If that is required, we are also ready and prepared to do that. So in essence, you must have a systems approach, and I'm sure it is not just the ministry, but AIC is also prepared in helping with that. Then, of course, your produce certification, and this is where you're going to have us inspect your produce. We will certify once it meets the importing country requirement, and also food safety requirement as well. The Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm speaking ministry widely, have actually obtained training in the USA Food Safety and Modernization Act. So literally we have competent staff. Once it is that we're able to pass your product, it is very likely that it will enter these markets. There's a logistical arrangement. We do have 2 export complexes. I don't know how many persons are aware of that. They operate like one-stop shop, and therefore once it is that you get your inspection done, your facilities is certified and everything is good, you also then need to go to customs. You also need to go to see, you also need to ensure that you have your logistics in terms of flights and sea cargo. And if it is that you miss your flight, we also have something in place that we do offer cold storage at our export facility. So all in all, the Ministry of Agriculture have really thought through this thing quite carefully to ensure that you have all that is required. But let us dive a little bit more into what is meant by market access and why I said we really have the ready market. Mr. spoke to ready market in terms of the appetite of persons in our various diaspora. But let us talk about what we already have visa for in terms of you entering major markets. We do have a Government of Jamaica pre-clearance program with the United States Department of Agriculture. There are 51 products on that. Believe it or not, we're using less than 25% of that 51 pre-cleared products. What that means, once Jamaica, with our counterparts from the USDA, certify that shipment in Jamaica, it will be allowed to enter the US, clear the ports in the United States way faster. So we talk about the shelf life issues, etc. that program is in place. We're not seeing persons utilizing it as much as we would want to. I think it was in 2017 we went back to Cayman and we said, Cayman, we know we had some protocols with you regarding export. I think at that time we had about 21 products that Jamaica could send on an agreement again with the Cayman government. We went back to them, we did some renegotiation, and we now have 43 commodities that can actually enter into Cayman again, already have its visa. You don't need to think about how to get a permit, etc., because we don't have an established protocol. And we're still working with him. And in fact, only yesterday I was in a meeting. We're trying to get planting. We're literally at the end of that process in terms of getting planting in the Cayman. We're looking at breadfruit, sour stuff, sweet stuff. And interestingly, they also want Aki. And in my recent conversation with them, they would have indicated there's a preference perhaps for can Aki. So those markets, we are in technical negotiation to ensure that we hurdle all country entry requirements so that our exporters can go in. The big ticket, mango, you're aware of mango already. I won't spend much time on that. I'm sure AIC and the other presenters will speak a little bit more on that, but you would appreciate that we do have access, country access for mangoes into the US. The divorce with UK, you know, sometimes I hope my husband is not watching this, but sometimes divorce actually works out for some persons. And so with the divorce of UK from EU, we were able to actually re-enter the UK market with mangoes, but not just with mangoes at all. There are other soft fruit that we had serious challenges with, and now that is actually open for persons to take advantage of. I know pineapples, for example, we have that a lot here, and now it is way easier to get pineapple into the UK. We are also working with our regional colleagues. Late last night, I was up reviewing 14 commodity standards for agricultural produce that will be allowed to actually be exported within the region. So we're talking about pineapples, talking about ginger, we're talking about yams, etc. And what we're doing in Jamaica is to ensure that those requirements that would be required, we can meet them and that they're not too onerous. And so we're currently doing that. I think next week, Tuesday, thereabout, we're supposed to be having just a validation of those commodity standards. So we're working to ensure market access right across, not just the region, not just US, not just UK, and we have our faithful Canada as well. So there's a group of exporters that have become really popular. COVID has made them extremely popular. And these are the e-commerce, and I want to call them small shippers. We have been classifying them as non-commercial, but they really aren't non-commercial. They're actually doing it for sale. And with COVID and all the restrictions, have really repivoted, and we saw, although air shipment may have been affected with the logistical issues that came with COVID, we literally saw persons repivoting and sending things to e-commerce. We also have a requirement because we have seen several of them sending things that were destroyed in the US or the UK because it just did not meet the entry requirement. And so we have made provisions. In fact, the ministry is opening an outstation in Mandeville, right in the central part of Jamaica, to ensure that wherever you are in the country, we already have a place in Mobile, we have it in Kingston. If you want to get the certification in St. Anne, we do have an officer station there. We have an officer station in Portland. And we were just concerned that there was no officer that somebody could quickly run to get these small things certified. And so we do have a quasi officer there now, but we'll be having a big office there where persons can literally take their small commodities. There are some requirements for that. Certainly we would not require packing house. We too are repivoting to see how best we can actually assist our exporters. So we understand that these small e-commerce persons that are operating primarily from their homes will not be able to do big scale packing houses. And we at the ministry, we are ensuring that we accommodate them. And we have really seen the explosion of this during COVID, like literally. I think every Jamaican is exporting. It's the security guards that are doing these things part-time. I was driving yesterday, one walk out in the road, and I said, hey, that was an exporter. Luckily, I didn't hit the person because that wouldn't be good. But yes, we are indeed facilitating. The Jamaican government as well, through our Ministry of Agriculture, has also utilized the opportunity that COVID presented, and we're now doing electronic phytosanitary certification. So that certification that you need, once it is that we do it here in Jamaica, it is automatically sent to our trading partners. France recently signed up with us in regards to that. We're doing this long time with the unions. But what that really means is that we're cutting down paperwork, we're cutting down time, and we're ensuring that export is moving sooner or later as well. You recognize that you only need to go on the Jamaica Single Window for Trade platform to do all that you need to do in regards to export. So visiting us will soon be a thing of the past. Well, at least not for inspection. You can't do a virtual inspection. You can perhaps, but that will still remain. So I'm hoping I stuck within my 6 minutes. If not, I thank you for certainly listening, and I will be here to provide further information if required.
Let's move into our question and answers. Thank you so much, Mrs. Wilson Graham. Want to acknowledge all our, would say, friends, families, colleagues, participants via the World Wide Web, Zoom to be exact. I see that we have close to 500 individuals. And if you notice that little red dot there, they have been chit-chatting away tremendously. So we acknowledge them and we appreciate them for being with us today. I have, I don't even know if I should call it a question, Mr. Charles, but in the chat, they're asking, can import tax be removed from drip hoses, plastic coverings, netting, poly greenhouse covers, barbed chicken, and hog wires? You want to comment on that? Let me give you.
I won't stand so I don't block me. What that question connotes is really, how are we going to find creative ways of incentivizing farming and agriculture in terms of reducing the input cost? And that's something that as a ministry we are focused on. We are doing so from the perspective of the equipment like the drip hoses and others, and also from the angle of the input in terms of feeds and other things. So yes, we appreciate the need for us to look on the slew of items that fall in the category. And we are working with the Ministry of Finance to see where there can be some adjustments, particularly considering the challenges that we have had globally and the need for us to continue that input of support for farmers. I can't get specific because it would be out of turn for me to speak of it without it being finance or a finance consideration. But we definitely are looking on not just drip hoses, but several items. This morning we had a meeting around feed. And you will hear on May 10th some announcements around what the ministry is doing to support farmers and fishers as it relates to tackling the CET and the GCT cost.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles Jr. moving on with our questions. And this one is for JAMPRO. And it says, I have a challenge with JAMPRO as a beginner and a small man farming, and they want to know if they can, how they access support and facility from JAMPRO.
Thanks very much for the question. JAMPRO has a whole sector or team that is focused on agriculture and agribusiness. It's really very easy to get in touch with us. Our website is dobusinessjamaica.com, and if you go on Invest or Trade and you go to the agribusiness team, they will give you the full set of information on how to start, what markets to target, all the things I went through in the presentation.
Okay, so we'll have that. Dr. Knife, do you want to pose a question? Go right ahead. Come, Doc.
You can carry into the country without paying the duties. That are a very difficult process. Means as a simple farm, what persons just do not know, including drip system. So those things actually exist. The second thing though relates to two persons' presentation, the opportunity to engage farmers, but also the absence of the facilities that meet the standards. But through funding, through JSIF, etc., we actually establish these micro facilities at the AIT centers, whether it be Springville as well. So not all those persons who are already in that farming setup would not need to be finding some kind of facility to support them export, or we could actually have the equipment where rather than getting the raw pepper, we could get in some process state to sell to your organization as well. So it's really a big opportunity out there to do these things, and I think the systems are there, but there's serious information deficiency amongst farmers. They just do not know. You know, the marketing of the services to the Ministry of Agriculture need to be expanded significantly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Knight. So we need to find ways to ensure that our farmers are getting the necessary information. A question, and we're going to be wrapping things up with this question and answer segment for this group, Group 1, for Mr. Garbutt. And this question is for you. For Walkerswood, I would like to grow for you. How can I work with you in this regard?
All right, thank you for the question. And as I said, we rely very heavily on our farmer network. One of the challenges that we do face in terms of for access for our products into the export markets is traceability. And traceability is a big part of global food safety initiatives. And what that requires is that at this stage, we are actually audited each year directly by the US FDA. And they come to our facility and they walk through our processes and our facility to see what's happening. But the second leg of that, we are currently left to self-audit our farmers, because in fact, we can undo trace a specific batch of Walkerswood. So if you say, well, we have batch 1, 1990, who was the farmer that provided the scaling and the pepper? We can identify that to you. So with that comes a certain requirement for our farmers that they're able to keep certain basic set of records. When did they clear the land? When did they plant? What have they treated any problems with? Of course, the data behind whatever they use to treat. And when they reaped, even down to when they washed the vehicle that they deliver the product to me in. So unfortunately, what we have found is that it's become a little bit more challenging on our view to work with individual smaller farmers, unfortunately, under certain minimum level of produce coming in. What we have done is been able to utilize, have a Walkerswood Co-op farmers group in our community. They work together, they have a secretary of the group, they bring their goods in together, they work and clear at the same time, they utilize the same chemicals or treatments if there's an issue, and then they can provide us with one set of records for the conglomerate of goods that we get through them. Similarly, we have land in New Forest, St. Elizabeth. We have a large network of farmers providing us and such out there. And similarly, what we've done is encourage groups that are within proximity to each other to adopt each other and help lift a hand. So that way, you know, not just a guy that has 10 acres growing for us, but somebody that's willing to put it on a half acre. They can then liaise with these groups and then provide into that more global supply and documented by one company rather than having a group of smaller individuals. So that being said, our contact number at Walkerswood is open and available. We're actually going to, we're revamping our website. We're willing to put in that, a base document that shows you what the needs and requirements are, whether you want to be growing peppers for us, red and yellow, scallion, pimento, etc., so that it's easier to access and find out what our needs are so that you can bring us the produce that we so desperately need.
Thank you, Mr. Garbutt. I have one more question. A slew of questions are coming in, but I'll just take one more. And this is in regards to plant quarantine. I can't send any produce or product abroad without going through your organization. How do I know the specific standards to follow?
So thanks for the question again. Very good question. The standards to follow will depend on the market. Are you going to the US, Cayman, UK, etc.? And it would also depend on the commodity. So once it is that you approach any one of our offices, we do have 3 major offices and 3 outstations. Present information to us. Our officers will be able to guide you. We go the extent actually of giving you a free inspection, whether to the field or the packing house, literally guide you in terms of what you will be required to do once it is that you have determined your market and the commodity.
We thank you so much, and we're going to be thanking Group 1 for their presentations.